I never believed in God, but on the day she jumped, I gripped the cross until my knuckles went white and called out "Father" to the empty air over and over. Even when the police pinned me to the ground, I kept muttering, "I can't serve you anymore. What I'm about to do is something only an animal would do." The doctor said she still had a chance, and my lawyer got me probation, but I didn't know who to thank for any of it. Soon enough, I realized that the so-called miracle just gave her a little more time to endure more pain. Nightmares, panic, shame, and the stares of strangers. I could have listened to the therapist and moved her away from that city, away from everything that hurt her, started fresh, and been a gentle husband. Yet every time I saw her take off the wedding dress in front of the mirror and quietly slip that diamond ring she'd saved 3 years for back in the drawer, I knew I would never be able to forgive. She had bet everything she wanted from life on me, and the only thing I could give her in return was to become the living nightmare of everyone who had hurt her. On my wedding day, my wife stood at the edge of the rooftop in a spotless white gown. She was crying as she asked me, "If I die, will the people who hurt me ever feel guilty?" I told her, "They won't feel guilty, but I'll make them pay with their lives. I'll make every one of them go down with you. If you still love me, if you don't want me to become a killer, then don't jump. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life." She wiped her tears and gave me a weak smile. "I am sorry, Lucas. I really can't go on. Every day I'm alive, all I want is to die." I looked at her, and it felt like my heart had been ripped out. I loved her, and if she did jump, I would understand. That day I took my fiancée to try on wedding dresses. The very first one she put on was stunning. Just looking at her made my heart race. If the store hadn't been so crowded, I would have pulled her close and kissed her right there. She looked up shyly and asked, "Does it look good?" A little boy nearby, brought along by some adult, heard her and yelled out, "Wow, that's so ugly." My fiancée got upset immediately. I quickly showered her with compliments, telling her she looked like a real princess and not to mind a kid's nonsense. She finally smiled and said, "Then won't you go buy a milk tea for Her Highness the Princess? She's roasting in this gown." I nodded like an idiot and ran off to get her drink. I had no idea that from that moment on, I would destroy her life. I had no idea that from that moment on, I would ruin her life. When I came back with the milk tea, I saw a big crowd gathered outside the bridal shop, and a lot of people were holding up their phones to film. My heart sank, and I had no clue what was going on. When I pushed through the crowd and ran in, I saw my wife lying on the floor in torn clothes. The girl I always treated like a little princess was pinned down by another woman, unable to move. That same little boy was standing beside her, and he raised his hand and slapped her across the face. As his palm struck her, the woman praised him. "Good boy, sweetie. That's the way." My wife couldn't fight back. She could only clutch her chest with both hands, crying and begging, "Please don't film me. Please stop." But the onlookers just held up their phones like they were watching a show, refusing to stop recording. I lost it. I grabbed a nearby phone and smashed it, then shoved the woman aside and pulled my wife into my arms. She was shaking violently, clutching my shirt with all her strength, and broke down sobbing. Seeing her like that tore my heart apart. I took off my jacket and wrapped it around her to cover her, asking what had happened. But she just kept crying and trembling, unable to speak, her fingers locked onto my clothes, too terrified to let go. Finally, the salesgirl of the bridal boutique told me what had happened. After I left, my wife had taken off the first dress and was about to try on the second one. At that moment, the little boy's aunt was also trying on a gown, sitting nearby having her makeup done, while her mother chatted with her. Nobody was watching the kid, and he was running around the store like a wild animal. Then the little monster yanked open the curtain to my wife's fitting room. In that shop, the fitting area was in the main showroom for better lighting. So as soon as the curtain flew open, everyone in the store saw her completely undressed. She was mortified and furious, so she instinctively slapped the kid. The boy's parents went ballistic. They pointed at her, screaming that she was shameless and had no right to hit their child. The two of them lunged at her, pinned her down, and even urged the little brat to hit her back. That woman was especially vicious. She went straight for my wife's clothes, ripping them apart so my wife couldn't fight back. She used my wife's shame against her, while doing the filthiest, most disgusting things imaginable. A tearing pain swelled inside me. I held her close, feeling like my heart was being pounded by fists. I was a man who had just watched the girl I swore to protect be humiliated and beaten like that. Just thinking about what she had been through made it hard to breathe. The store manager had already called the police, and they arrived quickly. As soon as that woman saw them, she started shrieking hysterically, telling the cops she needed to take her child to the hospital right away, and that if there was anything wrong with him, she would make sure we paid. One of the officers came over to get our side, but my wife was still shaking in my arms and couldn't speak. Seeing her like that made me panic even more. I told the officer, "Can we take her to the hospital first? She's not okay." That woman immediately shouted, "What a fake little slut, always acting sick, disgusting." When I was nursing my baby, I didn't care who saw me. What decent woman plays the delicate victim like her? I wanted to tear her tongue out, but all I could think about was my wife's safety. So I ignored the police and carried her out. I carried her straight onto the police car and asked the officers to take us to the hospital. At the hospital, the police said the case would likely be treated as mutual assault, and we'd have to wait for the medical evaluation. I told my wife to see the doctor, but she was shaking so much she could barely stand, so I carried her into the exam room myself. The doctor started the exam, but soon frowned and called me out into the hallway. I was anxious, but I stepped out to wait. Soon a little boy came out too. He had barely a scratch. He covered his face and ran to his mother, crying about the pain. She hugged him, shot me a nasty look, and cooed, "It's okay, sweetie. If anyone ever bullies you again, we'll fight them to the death." I clenched my fists and bit my nails, silently praying that she would be all right. After a while, the door opened and the doctor came out, but my wife wasn't with him. The doctor told us, "The situation is complicated. She has palpitations, shortness of breath, and her mental state is very unstable. I called an ambulance to transfer her to the city hospital. It's likely acute stress response." I was frozen in place, and even that woman looked shaken. She quickly butted in. "Am I the only one who thinks she's overreacting? It's not like she was completely naked. She had pasties on. If she's so prudish that a little thing like this gives her a breakdown, maybe she shouldn't be out in public at all." I lunged at her, grabbed her hair, and dragged her toward the restroom. The officers nearby tried to stop me, but I was quicker and slammed the door shut. She was still holding her child, and I pulled them both inside. A frantic banging started on the door. She shook with fear and screamed, "What are you doing? You think you can hit me in front of the cops?" I drove my fist in her gut, and she dropped to her knees, clutching her stomach and shrieking, "Help! Police! He's hitting me!" I dragged her by the hair into a stall. The boy fell to the floor, crying and pounding my legs with his little fists, yelling, "Let my mommy go." I told him coldly, "Then don't close your eyes. Watch your mother carefully." I grabbed the woman's hair, pulled open the stall door, and she panicked, asking what I was going to do. I said, "I'm going to teach you some manners." I shoved her head into the toilet bowl. Her face turned purple, and she started gagging. I held her head down and hit the flush, shouting, "Your mouth is filthy. Let me wash it out for you." She tried to lift her head, but I pushed her back every time. She wanted to throw up, but I wouldn't let her. The boy was screaming and crying, "Bad guy. You're a bad guy." I turned to him and said, "That's right, I'm a bad guy. Watch closely and remember this bad guy's face." That woman was convulsing on the floor when the police broke down the door and rushed in. I raised my hands and said, "I'm not resisting. Please take my wife to the hospital first. And if this woman is scared too, it's because she's mentally fragile. Please don't let her out to hurt other people anymore, all right?" I was taken back to the station and told the cops honestly, "I admit I hit her, and I'll accept whatever penalty. But what she did to my wife has to be accounted for." But real life isn't a TV show, and justice doesn't always come. That woman was held for only 1 day because she had 2 kids at home and was still nursing, so they let her go almost immediately. We tried to press criminal charges, but the police said my wife hadn't suffered enough physical harm to meet the threshold for prosecution. PTSD didn't count as a minor injury either. I wouldn't give up, so I took my wife to see a lawyer. He told us that our only option was a civil suit for damages, and he advised us to drop it and move on. I got furious and asked if we could sue her for defamation. I'd read about that online. The lawyer shook his head and explained that the law gives special protections to nursing mothers. Putting her behind bars was almost impossible. Even if we fought tooth and nail and won, she'd probably get probation or bail. When we left the law office, my wife kept her lips pressed together and didn't say a word, but tears streamed down her face. I pulled her into my arms, and she leaned against my chest, crying bitterly, asking me why the bad guys never get punished. I had no answer. For some people, writing a check is all the price they pay. For us, the cost of what they did was insultingly low. I refused to believe that only the wicked get to walk free. I was not going to let my girl just accept a lifetime of being bullied. I contacted several more lawyers and even went to the courthouse myself. Everyone gave me the same answer. All we could do was sue for money. My wife's mental health got worse every day. She barely slept at night, and when she did drift off, nightmares would jolt her awake, and she'd shake in my arms. She cried and told me she was exhausted from living. Every time she closed her eyes, all she saw was what happened that day. The therapist suggested we keep her busy with things that gave her a sense of purpose, because idle time only made her spiral. The wedding date was getting closer. Whenever she felt down, she threw herself into planning, choosing flowers, picking the menu, even designing the entrance decorations herself. She tried to bury the pain in busy work. But real life isn't a TV show. It just keeps pushing good people toward despair. A few days before the wedding, Olivia's parents called and asked us to come over. The moment I walked in, her mother handed me a big red envelope. I opened it. It was full of cash. She said, "This is the $5,000 your family gave as the bride price. I'm returning it all today, plus another $3,000 as my own compensation." I was baffled and didn't understand what she was getting at. She sighed heavily and said she hoped we would call off the wedding. My wife was stunned. She had been working so hard on the wedding, and now they want to call it off. Her father pulled out his phone and slid it across the table to me. I looked down and saw a video posted in their neighborhood group chat. It was the footage of my wife being stripped and pinned down at the bridal shop. At the start of the video, my wife was clutching herself, crying and begging people to stop filming, but they just watched the show and ignored her. They recorded every second of her most humiliated, shattered moment. The person who posted it didn't just share the video. They added a caption. At that bridal shop on Elm Street, a side chick and her sugar daddy were taking wedding photos and got caught by the real wife, who stripped her. The kid was so mad, he helped his mom beat the mistress. My wife and I were frozen in shock. None of it was true, but with her spin, the video looked completely justified. The poster even acted self-righteous, adding crying emojis and writing, "Even a little kid knows to protect his mom. This woman is filthy and cheap. Share this. Everyone has a duty to expose this home wrecker." The group chat went crazy. Messages flooded in, all cursing my wife. Some piled on. Others added their own twisted details. Nobody bothered to check the facts. They just followed their emotions, having long since abandoned any sense of judgment. I scrolled through the chat, but I didn't see Olivia's parents say a single word. I looked at her mother and asked, "Why didn't you speak up?" She smiled bitterly and said, "I can't explain it. Luckily, you had your bridal makeup done that day, so the neighbors didn't recognize you. As long as I act like I don't know, they'll never figure out that the woman in the video is my daughter." My wife stared at her mother, her voice shaking. "Mom, you're really going to hide behind a layer of makeup and pretend that's not your daughter?" Her mother said, "I'm doing this for you. Things have gone too far. You can't have this wedding anymore. It's too shameful." My wife cut her off, crying, "Mom, I'm not dirty. Why can't I get married? Do you think I don't want you to marry? Think about it. If you wear that gown and bridal makeup, everyone will recognize you as the woman in the video. Do you really think that wedding will be joyful? Do you think they bless you? Or would they whisper and laugh behind your back? I'm trying to protect you. Why can't you see that?" My wife was speechless. We both understood her mother's point. Even if we could clear everything up someday, as long as the wedding went forward, Olivia would become a target of ridicule at the reception. She had been doing a little better lately, but now she finally broke. She turned and ran into the bedroom, slamming the door. Soon we heard her crying desperately from inside. Why am I the only one who gets hurt? I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I the only one being blamed? She cried with such despair, each sob like a knife in my chest. She hadn't done anything wrong, so why did she have to carry all the pain? We were faced with two equally cruel choices: swallow the injustice and live under everyone's judgment, hiding away and enduring all the lies just to keep the peace, or speak the truth and let everyone know who she was and where she lived, so that for the next decade, even taking out the trash would mean facing stares and whispers. Either way, we were the only ones who would get hurt. I tried the doorknob, wanted to go in and hold her, but it was locked from inside. I spoke softly through the door. "Baby, can you open up?" She was crying so hard she could barely breathe. Between sobs, she told me she had always believed she would eventually marry me in a wedding dress. She had saved up for a long time to buy herself a big diamond ring and used 3 years of bonuses to buy an Audi as her dowry. She said she had always dreamed of sitting in our little car in her wedding dress, watching me put the ring on her finger herself. She had worked so hard, put up with so much, just for the day she could wear that gown. But now everyone was telling her, "You're not wrong, but you can't have your own wedding." My eyes stung too. I told her through the door, "If you still want to marry, I'll marry you. I'll hold the wedding. Let people laugh or curse. I only want you in this life." She sobbed. "This wedding can never be happy again. Just like my parents said, if I stand up there in bridal makeup, I won't get blessings, only more mockery." I went quiet and stopped trying to talk her out of it. But I made note of two people. The woman who had torn her clothes. I didn't know where she lived yet, only that her name was Karen. And the neighbor who posted the video had used their apartment number as their username. Apartment 901, Building 4. I didn't say another word. I just burned those two names into my memory, my knuckles white as I fought to hold back the beast inside me. Behind every woman in this world, there is at least one man who truly loves her, and for her, he will do anything. I had to find that neighbor who spread the lies and make her understand that you can't just say whatever you want. Since Olivia's parents wouldn't clear her name in the group chat, I'd go to that person myself and make her confess and apologize. My wife was still crying and wouldn't see anyone, so I didn't bother her again. I went straight to Building 4. I went up to apartment 901 and knocked, but nobody answered. I knocked again, and then the door of apartment 902 cracked open. An elderly couple peered out and asked, "Young man, what are you doing here?" I said I had some business with the person in 901. The old man looked puzzled and replied, "Apartment 901 hasn't been sold yet." I was stunned. If apartment 901 was unsold, how could someone named 901 be spreading rumors in the group? Something was wrong, so I decided to ask the group admin. Our neighborhood group chat wasn't run by the property management. The residents had started it themselves to complain about the building. I knew the admin lived in apartment 503 in the same building, and the HOA meetings were always held at her place. I found apartment 503 and knocked. I got lucky. Someone was home. The door opened a crack, and a woman sized me up and asked what I wanted. I spoke politely. "Hi, are you the admin of a neighborhood group? I'm trying to find someone." I made up a quick excuse. The person in 901, Building 4, had borrowed money from me and then blocked me. I didn't want to make a fuss in the group, so I came to talk to them directly, but when I went to 901, I found out the apartment was still unsold. The admin relaxed, opened the door fully, and explained that a woman had come to her earlier with a rental contract, claiming to be a tenant in 901. Our group allowed tenants to join, but soon after joining, she started spamming ads and got kicked out for violating the rules. The admin showed me the ad. It was a picture of a renovation service. She said some contractors like to pretend to be residents to sneak into groups. She figured this woman had seen online that apartment 901 was empty, so she faked being a tenant to get in. Who knew she'd also pull a loan scam? I nodded and understood. This was a resident-run group. If the property management had run it, her fake identity would have been caught immediately. I saw the phone number on the ad and called it, but the recording said The number you have dialed is not in service. I was surprised. How could it be a dead number? Had she even faked the phone number when she posted the ad? The more I thought about it, the more unsettled I felt. So I asked, so there's no way for me to get that money back? Is there any other way to find her? The admin suddenly pointed up, and I noticed a surveillance camera at her door. She said, when I was working with the HOA, the property management always gave us trouble, so I installed this camera. That woman was definitely recorded when she came to see me. But I don't know how to work it. My husband's out of town now. Once he gets back, I'll have him pull the footage for you. Is that okay? I thanked her and left, feeling a bit disappointed. I couldn't catch the liar yet. But the most important thing now was to go home and comfort Olivia. I'd already decided that no matter what, I would marry her. She was the love of my life, and I couldn't let her carry this regret. The wedding day arrived. I put on my suit, tied my tie, and pinned a boutonniere to my jacket. I knew the big ceremony had been canceled, but I wanted to tell my girl that I'd already booked plane tickets to take her to the ocean. I called a local church and arranged for a pastor. At sunrise, I put the ring on her finger myself. At sunset, we'd make our vows facing the water. Even if we couldn't have a hotel wedding, I would still tell her in front of the pastor that in sickness and health, rich or poor, I would stay by her side forever. We weren't believers, but if it gave her a wedding, I'd kneel before God and play the faithful follower for a day. Then a frantic phone call ripped me out of that dream. I answered Olivia's mother, and I ran toward the hotel as fast as I could. I saw Olivia standing on the hotel rooftop, still in her snow-white wedding dress. In that moment, my heart felt like it was being ripped apart. The pain made it hard to breathe. I ran like a madman into the elevator, my chest burning with fear. I was so hot, I had to loosen my tie. When the elevator doors opened, the rooftop door was locked from the inside. I kicked it as hard as I could and broke the lock. I stood there gasping, looking at her silhouette in the sunlight. Her dress was white as snow, and she stood the edge in high heels, so fragile, so heartbreaking. I called out, "Olivia!" She slowly turned back. Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes full of hopeless sadness. She sobbed, "Lucas, if I die, will the people who hurt me ever feel guilty?" I pushed down my fear and said, "Please don't jump yet. Listen to me, okay?" Panic clenched my throat like a fist. Heat rose from my chest, and I had to unbutton my shirt to breathe. They won't feel guilty, but I'll make them pay. I'll make every one of them go down with you. As long as you still love me, as long as you don't want me to become a killer, don't jump. I'll take care of you for the rest of my life, and I'll never let anyone hurt you again. I pulled out the cross I had brought and spread the plane tickets out for her to see. I told her I had already arranged everything and wanted to live each day with her. She looked at the tickets, called me an idiot, then wiped her tears and forced a faint smile. "I'm sorry, Lucas. I really can't do this anymore. Every day I'm alive, all I think about is dying." A light breeze stirred her hair. She opened her arms as if to embrace me, and then she fell backward and vanished from my sight. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. My mind went blank, and I was shaking so badly I could barely stand. By the time I got downstairs, Olivia was lying still in a pool of blood. The white gown was turning red. Her mother collapsed and fainted on the ground. I knelt beside Olivia, shaking uncontrollably. I held her face in my hands and whispered her name like an idiot. "Baby, baby." But she didn't answer. "No ves, no pulse." I fumbled for my phone to call 911, but then a notification popped up on iMessage. "My husband's back. I'll send you the photo of that woman soon." I swiped it away without reading and called the ambulance. The paramedics arrived fast, rushed to her, started CPR, loaded her onto a stretcher, and took her away. I stayed on my knees, watching them carry her off, feeling completely empty. My phone buzzed, and I instinctively looked. It was a photo from the group admin. I stared at that picture for a long time, my knuckles white as I squeezed across until it creaked. That sharp, familiar face, it was her. Karen Miller. Only one thought filled my head. Back in that restroom, I should have killed her instead of just shoving her head into the toilet. The silver cross was now smeared with blood. "Father, I can't serve you anymore. Father, what I'm about to do is something only an animal would do. Father, is this a sin? The God inside me answered, in this world, there is always a man who deeply loves a woman, and for her, he will bear any sin. I didn't know where Karen lived, but I remembered the school uniform her son was wearing that day. The front said Oakwood Elementary School, Oakwood Avenue. I got in the car, tears pouring down my face, wiping them as I drove. My chest was so tight, I could barely breathe. I took a few deep breaths to steady myself, then messaged the group admin saying I'd accidentally left the group and asking her to re-add me. I hit the gas and headed straight for Oakwood Elementary. My phone rang. I didn't want to pick up, but I glanced at the screen. The name was Bitch. That's what I'd saved Karen as after the last confrontation. I answered anyway. Her voice came through, trembling. HLO. I stayed silent, waiting. She stammered. I saw a photo online of someone who jumped. It looks kind of familiar. Is it your wife? I answered coldly. You posted that rumor in the group chat, pretending to be 901, didn't you? She rushed. Wait. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Karen explained in a tearful voice that it was all a misunderstanding. That day at the bridal shop, I'd smashed someone's phone to stop them from filming Olivia. Later, we were both taken to the station. The boy's aunt pulled out the repaired phone and used the video to show that Karen had only pinned Olivia down, not actually hit her. But Karen was so angry about her phone being smashed that she secretly copied the video, tracked down our neighborhood, and used it to torment us. Karen said over the phone, I just wanted to get back at you. I never meant to push anyone to jump. Why is your wife always so extreme? Every time something happens, she has to choose the most drastic way out. My God. I cut her off. Why are you calling me now? She lowered her voice. I get off at 8. I wanted to know which hospital your wife is in, so I can come see you after work. St. Mary's Medical Center. I said that and hung up, but I didn't slow down. I kept driving toward Oakwood Elementary. She wanted to talk, but I was done talking. When I pulled up to Oakwood Elementary, before I even got out, I saw an ironic sight. Karen was dragging her son out of the school and climbing into an Uber, driving away in a rush. It felt like ice water dousing the fire in my chest and making it burn even hotter. Lies, all of it. She said she got off at 8, but now she was picking up her son early and running. She was definitely planning to skip town. If I had waited at the hospital like an idiot, she'd be long gone. I started the car and followed her. Finally, Karen got off at the Greyhound station. I parked and followed her inside. She was rushing toward the ticket counter, but her son kept crying, Mom, I told you I need to go to the bathroom. I really can't hold it. Karen didn't answer right away. She checked the departure board first, saw there was still time, and then led him toward the restroom. She was carrying the boy on her shoulder, his face turned toward me. He looked up, saw me, and his eyes went wide with terror. The boy started pounding Karen's shoulder, yelling, Mom, that bad guy is here. The bad guy is here. What bad guy? Karen turned around, confused, and I made my move. I clamped my hand over her face and dragged her toward the restroom. I said coldly, looks like our business always has to be settled in a bathroom. Didn't I teach you enough last time? The boy fell from her arms and started crying in pain. Karen struggled frantically, but she couldn't get loose. I dragged her into the restroom. The boy was screaming outside. Help! The bad guy is hurting my mom. Somebody help. I looked around. The restroom was empty, so I shut and locked the door. I flung Karen to the floor. Her face was full of terror as she scrambled backward, shouting, Your wife is the one who's too extreme. She's got mental problems. Oh my God, over nothing she jumped. I'll pay you, okay? He stared at her coldly. Then the restroom door was kicked hard from outside, and someone yelled, Hey, you in there? Come out. Don't hit a woman. We call the cops. Get out now. I tuned it all out. I didn't care how long that door would hold, or whether they really called the police. I wasn't here to scare her and walk away. I was here to make her pay. Karen's face went white, and she kept backing into the corner, but a bathroom stall is only so big. I moved closer step by step. She huddled in the corner, shaking, crying, and pleading, I was wrong, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I said coldly, You don't even know what wrong means. Your tears, your pitiful act, it's just a mask. You're scared of karma, so you're putting on this show for me. You're not sorry. You just hope I'm stupid enough to let you go. She cried and screamed at me. I'm trying to help you. I paused and asked coldly, help me? How? She rushed, can't you see? Your wife is mentally unstable. She overreacts to everything. If you stay with her, she'll drag you down. And mental illness runs in families. Her genes will ruin your kids too. I took a deep breath. You're the one who's sick. You never see your own fault. You always blame everyone else. You cling to that victim-blaming nonsense and never realize how repulsive your own behavior is. Right then, the door was kicked again, the lock broke, and the door flew open. It was just a cheap bathroom door. It couldn't take many kicks. At the door stood a huge man, with a little boy peeking out from behind him. The moment Karen saw him, her fear turned to triumph, and she shouted, Honey, you're here. The man said coldly, I got your call, and came right away. So this was Karen's husband. With her husband there, Karen transformed. She started laughing wildly. Not so tough now, are you? My husband is a fitness trainer, all about power. Keep acting tough. I stayed silent. Seeing that, she got even bolder. What? Nothing to say? You coward. You only bully women. Let me tell you. I laughed out loud. I saw your wife jump with my own eyes. She got what she deserved. She hit my kid first. Karma, right? I hope she dies. I hope they will her straight to the morgue. Go ahead, sue me, let the judge sentence me. I asked a lawyer. Even if she dies, it's just defamation, less than 3 years. That's the fairness of the law. The law won't protect a cheap little. Before she could finish, I slapped her hard. Karen spun halfway around and crumpled to the floor, blood gushing from her nose. She clutched her face and screamed, Honey, he hit me. Her husband finally snapped and charged at me. I knew perfectly well that in a fist fight, I was no match for him. He was built like he spent every day in the gym. But I wasn't here to box. I loosened my tie as he came at me. He grabbed my throat, trying to lift me off the ground. I took the opening and drove my knee straight into his groin. He doubled over in pain, crumpling. I balled my fist and slammed it into his throat. He clutched his neck, unable to speak, just gasping in agony. I grabbed his head, raised my knee, and smashed it into his nose with everything I had. That muscle-bound tough guy went limp as a rag doll, spat blood, and collapsed, twitching on the floor. He would never understand that I had come here with no intention of getting out clean. The restroom went quiet. Karen stood frozen, pale as a ghost. The kid stared at me with huge eyes. The security guard who had been about to intervene just stood at the door, frozen. Then the boy let out a loud wail. The boy charged at me, crying, and pounded my legs with his little fists. Bad guy, you hit my mom. You hit my dad. I crouched down, looked him in the eyes, and said slowly, Yes, I'm a bad guy. Remember my face. Remember what I did to your parents. Never forget it. I picked him up and threw him aside. He hit the floor and burst into tears. I slowly closed the door. The guard stayed put. $3,000 a month wasn't worth dying for. I had worried the door wouldn't hold, but then I looked around and got an idea. There were handrails on both sides of the restroom entrance. I grabbed Karen's husband and dragged him over to the railing. Karen saw what I was doing and lunged at me. What are you doing to my husband? I kicked her away. Then I lifted his arm and slid it through the gap between the handrail and the first stall door, wedging it so that the door pressed against his arm whenever it was pulled. I took off my belt and strapped his upper body to the railing. I tried the door. The more it opened, the more it crushed his arm. One more inch, and his whole arm would snap. It was the strongest lock in the world. Once it was locked, I pulled out my phone and pointed it at Karen's face. Tell the truth about what you did. Karen wiped her bloody nose and looked at the camera, all her earlier arrogance gone. She spoke obediently. I'm a shameless woman. I snuck into the neighborhood group to spread lies. I didn't control my child. It's all my fault. She confessed every dirty thing she'd done, one by one, into the camera. Then she whispered, Now, can you let us go? I shook my head and said very seriously, You know the saying? A lie gets halfway around the world before the truth puts on its shoes. Your apology video might not reach everyone, but if you want it to spread, there's only one way. It has to be entertaining enough that people want to share it. What do you mean? I mean, your apology video needs a little something attention-grabbing. Karen instinctively clutched her clothes and shrieked, "Don't you dare! Ich glänze her." "Relax. I'm not stripping you." I kicked open the next stall, pulled out the trash can, and slammed it down in front of her. She froze. I held up the phone and said calmly, "Eat it. That gets more shares than taking your clothes off." Karen stared at the trash can for a few seconds, then leaned in for a closer look and immediately gagged. She screamed, "Just kill me. Just kill me now." I frowned, annoyed. Am I the only one who thinks you're overreacting? You make a huge deal out of nothing, always picking the most drastic way out. Over something this small, you're falling apart. In my book, I wasn't being extreme at all. I was just giving her back her own words, word for word. But Karen was the one who went extreme. She suddenly stood up, crying hysterically, and smashed her head backward against the wall. I grabbed her and yanked her back, then shoved her head straight into the trash can. She struggled and howled in pain. I said coldly, "You want to die? Sorry, but your life is worth a lot less than my wife's name." Then I heard the piercing sound of sirens outside. I checked the time and frowned. That fast. Only a few minutes. But it didn't matter. I wasn't planning to run, and I wasn't planning to make it to court in one piece either. I wasn't afraid of prison. I just couldn't face a single day without Olivia. Karen was on the ground, vomiting hard, stomach contents splattering out. Soon the police were banging on the door and peeking through the crack. Karen's husband, still tied to the railing, woke up from the pain and let out a terrible scream. The officers outside saw that and stopped kicking, afraid one more blow would snap his arm. "Hey man, let's talk this out. Don't do anything crazy," one of the officers called out, sounding frustrated. "Whatever it is, tell us. Don't make things worse." Karen wiped the vomit from her mouth and screamed toward the door. "Police! Shoot him! Shoot him now!" I ignored her. I opened a message and saw the admin had added me back. Without hesitating, I posted Karen's confession video to the neighborhood group, then sent 3 big red envelopes. My phone started buzzing like crazy. I didn't have to look. The group was already exploding. Karen kept screaming, "Why haven't you shot him? He's right behind the door. Can't your bullets go through it?" The officers outside got agitated. "Stop yelling. What if we miss? Hey man, whatever your issue is, come out and talk." I said calmly, "Don't worry. She's not going to die. It's not her turn yet." "Then what do you want?" "I'm waiting for a call," I said quietly. Waiting for the hospital to tell me a miracle. I held my phone and whispered to myself, if Olivia doesn't make it, I'll carve out her heart and see how black it really is. The officers outside were taken aback and said quickly, "Your wife is still in the hospital. We'll get in touch with them right now. Tell us her name and which hospital. Is she the jumper from today?" "Yes, that's her. When I touched her, she had no pulse." "I'm just waiting for a miracle. Don't assume the worst. No pulse doesn't mean no hope. We'll contact the hospital for you right now. Calm down and talk to us. Look, this guy is badly hurt. Let me get him to the hospital first. The sooner he goes, the better it is for you. You still have a chance. Don't dig yourself in deeper." I sighed and tuned out the voices outside. They didn't understand. If Olivia was truly gone, then for me, there was nothing left to negotiate. Whatever happened, it was all the same to me. Then I suddenly remembered the day I proposed. She always told me she'd saved up a lot of money and bought herself a big diamond ring. I knew she was bragging. Olivia was a total miser. She never wanted gifts, only cash. First milk tea of fall, $52. Valentine's Day, $5.20. New Year's red envelope, $13.14. Every number had a cute romantic meaning, but she never bought herself anything big. Until one day, she went to shower and asked me to get a verification code for her phone so she could log into her movie account. When I picked up her phone, the screen was open to a memo titled "Do Not Touch Savings." It had every transfer I'd ever sent her, and I saw her target amount, $20,000. The note beside it was the price of that diamond ring, $20,000. That day, her friends had built up the mood to a peak. Everyone was watching me. I had to go down on one knee and ask her if she would marry me through sickness and health, rich or poor, for the rest of our lives. I wondered if she'd put in eye drops beforehand, because she cried like a movie star, tears streaming nonstop. In front of all her friends, after scrimping and saving $20,000, She blew it all on one ring. She probably wanted to cry too. She threw herself into my arms, looked up with a smile, and said even if she died, she'd haunt me every day and be my ghost forever. I was so stupid back then. I just hugged her and grinned, forgetting to make her spit 3 times to chase away bad luck like the old folks said. I overestimated myself and underestimated the police. I thought that door wouldn't be opened easily, but they barely pried it open a crack and tossed in a smoke grenade. In that tiny restroom, thick smoke filled the air instantly, burning my eyes and throat, blinding me. With a loud crash, they smashed a hole in the wall next to the door. A second team came in with a hydraulic cutter, snipped the railing base, then forced the door open and shouted, "Go! Take him down!" I was tackled from behind, my elbows and knees pinned to the floor. However unwilling, against the full force of the law, my resistance was pathetic. We were dragged out one by one. Karen hid behind the officers, crying and pointing at me, telling them everything I'd done. I looked at her and started laughing. I laughed louder and louder, until it was almost howling. "You came too early. She's not dead yet, so I'll only get a light sentence. But when I get out, I'll watch your house every day. I won't let any of you go. I'll make sure you have nightmares, waking up in the middle of the night terrified that I might get out early. As long as I'm alive, your whole family will never sleep soundly." Karen's face contorted with fear. She grabbed the officer's arm and screamed, "You see? He's insane. Shoot him." Her terror-filled face was like adrenaline to me. It only made me laugh harder. I was cuffed behind my back, shoved into a squad car, and taken to the station. Even in handcuffs, being let in for questioning, I couldn't stop smirking. The officer frowned and asked, "What are you smiling about? Cooperate properly." I looked him in the eye. "I won't cooperate. When I get out, I'll kill every one of them. Even if I die here, even if I jump out the window right now, I won't cooperate." One of the officers sighed, walked over, and held out his phone. The screen showed a video call. I froze. On the screen, Olivia lay in a hospital bed, pale, but her eyes were opening slowly. "Your wife's been saved. If you cooperate, you might get out early and go back to her." I stared at that video, and it hit me like a blow to the head. The tightness I'd been holding broke. Tears poured down my face, and I sobbed like a kid. I croaked, "Okay, I'll cooperate." In the end, Karen had only minor injuries, and her husband had only minor injuries too. Under the law, I was facing up to 3 years. But to my surprise, Karen's family actually wrote a letter of forgiveness. That made me feel even worse. I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't understand how I could end up paying her family anything. Not until my lawyer sat across from me and explained did I realize that my family hadn't given Karen a penny. I frowned and asked, "Then what happened?" He sighed. "Here's the deal. From what I understand, Karen is terrified you'll come after her once you're out. She wanted to sell her place and move, but the market in her neighborhood is terrible right now. If she sells in a hurry, she'll lose at least $600,000. I was stunned. How could she be so selfish? Does she care how I feel? It took me forever to find her. Don't interrupt. The lawyer cut me off. The point is, she doesn't want to lose that kind of money. So she decided to give you a forgiveness letter and bury the hatchet. Why would I agree? First, she's not asking for medical bills. Second, that video you shot is spread all over the local groups. Everyone knows what she did. Every time she goes out, people point and whisper, "Look, that's the one who ate." I couldn't help but laugh. Honestly, I kind of like that nickname. But the lawyers said, seriously, her reputation is destroyed. She and her husband have both been hurt by you. Your wife was hurt worse, but at least now people know she was innocent. Karen's family wants to move on and end this back-and-forth revenge. I went quiet, thinking for a long time. Seeing me hesitate, the lawyer got serious. Accepting this letter is the best outcome for you. Worst case, you get probation and you can be with your wife sooner. If you push too hard, she might just take the $600,000 hit and make sure you do the full time. You decide. I looked up and asked, how much did she buy that school district house for? They said she bought it for $300,000. $300,000, huh? I nodded. Then I'll take the forgiveness letter. The court gave me probation. My old job was gone, of course. But as they say, A tree stands even when dead. A living man always finds another road. I figured out one thing. Losing a job doesn't mean losing income. Later, a probation officer came to talk to me and asked about my plans. I asked carefully, could I open a small deli shop? He said, sure. We encourage people on probation to make an honest living. I went back and talked it over with Olivia. We rented a small storefront across from Oakwood Elementary and put up a sign, Bray's Delights. A lot of our friends came by to support us. Every day at dismissal, they'd hang out in the shop, chatting and ordering braised duck necks. And funny enough, every time someone called out one duck neck, Karen's son would almost always be walking out of the school gate at that same moment. I'd take the order, grab a duck neck, step up to the cutting board, and call out one duck neck. Some friends would say, I don't really want duck neck. I'd smile and say, you do. You definitely do. Then I'd raise the cleaver, my eyes fixed past the cutting board, coldly locked on that little boy. Chop! The blade slammed down on the duck neck, the sound crisp and sharp. Every time, Karen's son would turn white, spin around, and run. After it happened enough times, Karen finally couldn't stand it and called the police. She wiped her tears and told them. He said he wouldn't bother my family anymore, but now he scares my son every day. The kid won't even go to school. That school district house cost me $300,000. We emptied everything. I acted surprised. Oh my, $300,000 really? I asked innocently. How did I scare your son? My God, am I the only one who thinks you're overreacting? I'm just chopping braised food. I showed the police the order records on my phone. Officer, look, these are all orders for duck neck, right? The records clearly showed I was legitimately selling duck neck. Karen got frantic and yelled, you sell all kinds of stuff. Why is it that every time my son comes out, you're always chopping duck neck? Why do you have to chop every single duck neck yourself? Because my duck neck sells great, I said slowly. Chopping makes it more flavorful and easier to eat. Do you only sell duck neck? I also sell beef short ribs, but those need more chops. Then why are you always staring at my son when you chop? I smiled. I've got good knife skills. I don't need to look at the board to be precise. The knife chops where it chops, and I can look wherever I want. I just like looking at the school across the street and wondering if my own kid will ever be able to afford that kind of school. Karen's face went red, and she opened her mouth but couldn't get a word out. Olivia backed me up. Officer, he's just selling duck neck. She's reading too much into it. I found it funny. Since when is selling duck neck a crime? Somehow, after that, Karen's son refused to go to school at all. I actually felt a little bad for the kid, so I ate 3 extra bowls of rice that night. In the end, Karen couldn't take it anymore. She had to sell the house and move away with her son. I heard she didn't lose just $600,000. With interest, she lost a full $800,000, wiping out all the savings she'd built over the years. Meanwhile, my little deli business kept booming. A lot of people came by for braised snacks before drinking or called me to deliver. They came often, paid, and told me I was a real man. That guys should have each other's backs, and friends like that were worth keeping. Before I knew it, my story had spread around the area. A lot of men became regulars, dropping by now and then to grab snacks before drinks. At night, after we closed, Olivia would take my arm and lean into me as we walked slowly down the street. Our new place was close, so we walked home almost every day. I said softly, "Baby, let's close the shop for a month." She blinked. "Don't you want a wedding? I want to travel with you. A wedding trip and a honeymoon too." She stared. "Are you crazy? We're making over 200 a day right now. The wedding can wait." Let me repeat, 200 a day. Those regulars are already like family. When business grows, we can hire help. If we hire staff, they'll think you hit the big time and don't need them anymore. The worst thing isn't being broke yourself. It's watching someone you know drive a Land Rover. If you get too flashy, they'll stop coming around. I hugged her sheepishly. "Okay." She suddenly turned and wrapped her arms around me, her voice softer. "Actually, I don't want a wedding anymore. I changed my mind. I want something else." I got curious. "What?" She stood on her tiptoes and kissed me suddenly, smiling. "Guess. The thing I want most is standing right in front of me." Then she let go and skipped ahead on the sidewalk. The moonlight fell on her back. I watched her and racked my brain, but I couldn't figure out what she meant. The thing she wants most is right in front of her. I thought about it, and the only answer I could come up with was that $200 a day revenue. May every girl scarred by the words cruelty find a valiant protector willing to chop duck necks for her forever. Let the stifling shadows of the past be cut away by the busy, healing smoke of earthly life.